I will never forget calling my friend. I think it was maybe day 2 after discovery because she had been brave enough to tell me her story years before. She had been married to a sex addict and had confided me in me as a friend. And I was so lucky to have her in my life because she immediately guided me to the first steps that I should take for healing and recovery. So, in this short video, I want to give you a list of the first 5 steps to take immediately to get you on the right track after discovery. I'm going to talk a little bit about them. And then, of course, throughout this course, it's going to take a little bit more time to dive into things individually, but I just want to kick you off with some basic information. What the heck do you do next? The first step I would highly recommend is some version of physical separation. Uh, what I mean by this is maybe the first thing that you do is you're not sleeping in the same room. The reason this is important is because you are now viewing this person as dangerous. They have betrayed you, they have lied to you, they have manipulated you. Your brain and your nervous system is very aware that this is dangerous, that this is not safe. And so sleeping next to something that is dangerous is going to be triggering to your brain and your nervous system. Now, this can be tricky because I remember in the beginning, it was like a lot of anger, right? Rightfully so, and a lot of despair. And you hurt me, you need to comfort me, right? So, here are a few ways that this can work. You can have them sleep in a separate room completely. My husband actually lived in the guest room for about 6 months. And don't take this as a hard and fast rule. The reason I'm recommending this is so that you can immediately set up boundaries. One, so that you basically tell your brain and your body and yourself that you're standing up for yourself. Two, so that your spouse knows that you are taking this seriously and you will protect yourself and set boundaries through this process. And throughout this process, this is one that you really need to listen to your gut on and do what works for you. So, for example, he may sleep in the room, but not directly next to you, because if you're having a lot of anxiety, you may want him to be close. Maybe he's on the couch instead of downstairs, etc. Or maybe he is downstairs, and then occasionally you come get him and bring him in to just be next to you. So, whatever works for you, but I just recommend that you consider some sort of physical separation so that your brain and body know that you are willing to protect yourself and also that you are representing to your husband, this is really serious. You hurt me. I'm taking this seriously. So you can do that in a way that works for you. If you need more support with that, you can watch the boundaries video and you can, of course, talk with a counselor or therapist or practitioner that you're working with if you need some more guidelines or support there. The second thing that I highly recommend and that I would recommend starting today is that you journal. Now, you don't have to journal 10 million things a day. I'm going to provide you with some thoughts, but I highly recommend keeping a journal because when we get into this extreme stress state, we end up experiencing a lot of brain fog, a lot of forgetfulness. Sometimes our brain will actually block out memories to protect us later. And so, in some situations, men, especially while they are still in addict brain, will very much blame shift, blame you, manipulate, gaslight, all of these different things. So, one thing that can be incredibly helpful is to journal your experience while you're experiencing it so that you can look back and say, hey, no, you actually did say this thing. You're not going to make me believe that that's not what happened. And even if it's not about the relationship, it's just about your own recovery, it is incredibly cathartic to get your emotions out of your body in some way. And journaling is a really easy way to do that. You can be completely honest with the journal because it's just talking to yourself. And you can talk about how angry you are, how sad you are, how betrayed you feel, anything that you need to get out of your body. Really, really important. And again, also to document behaviors, monitoring, and remembering where you are, how bad it is. And then in the future, you can look back and see how far you've come in your healing journey. Because something that's really fascinating about the brain is as we improve, sometimes we forget how bad it was. And so noticing and being able to go back and see documentation of the pain that you felt so that you can compare it and say, oh, I really have come a lot further. I'm sleeping through the night. I'm not hypervigilant anymore. I don't have daily anxiety anymore. Our trust is building, because sometimes through the healing journey, we can feel frustrated that we're only at 60%, not 100%. But when you compare that 60% to the first 10 days or the first 3 months, you go, wow, I've really done a lot and I've come so far. So journaling can just be incredibly helpful. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you start that today. Number 3, and I want you to do this one before you move on to any other videos. I hope you're writing these down. Number 3 is to write a letter to yourself. This is actually something that is recommended in a lot of the support groups to the men. So they write a letter that is like them 10 years from now in recovery, what their life looks like. And that helps them to vision cast and to prepare for the future and to think through all of the wonderful things that they have coming their way when they choose to stay in recovery. So for you, what I want you to do is I want you to write a letter to yourself describing exactly what life looks like when you get to recovery. I want you to vision cast. I want you to get very specific. What are your thoughts in recovery? What are your feelings? What benefits have come through this process? How do you interact with your spouse? What does a healthy relationship look like in recovery if you choose to stay together? And just in general, what is going on in your life when you get to recovery? What does that look like? It's super, super specific. So writing a letter to yourself of what that future goal, that future version of yourself looks like. Okay. Because if we don't have something to work towards, if we are incapable of imagining what it might be like to heal, we are going to be much less likely to move towards it. Anytime we have a very clear goal, we are able then to figure out what steps it takes and take one step at a time to get there. But if the goal itself is mushy, how are we going to figure out what steps to take? So we want to hold that. It also creates this vision of hope throughout this process, that you are holding on to this mission, this goal. And the only thing that I would caution you on is I want you to write this letter about your recovery and what that looks like, specifically you. You can throw what it would look like to have a healthy relationship in there. But what I don't want you to do is create this vision, this hope of a healthy relationship that you hold on to no matter what happens in your spouse's recovery. And what I mean by that is some women will really spend way too much time with their husband relapsing and telling them with their actions over and over and over and over and over again, gaslighting them, blaming them, manipulating them, etc. The husband is very clear in his actions, maybe not his words, but his actions, that this is not healthy, that he's not healthy, and that he's not moving towards recovery. And sometimes I see women really holding on to this hope of forgiveness and restoration, and they're doing everything it takes, but their spouse simply is not. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I don't want that for you. If you stay in a relationship, I want you to hold a very high standard, a very high bar of what recovery and health looks like, because you deserve that. Everyone deserves that. It is not unrealistic to hold that bar. Men can reach it when they choose recovery. And I want you to write this letter to yourself of what it looks like for you to recover. Who do you want to be? Someone that is strong, someone that is confident, someone that sets boundaries, someone that is able to see red flags and green flags and take the appropriate actions, right? And that is going to be you. That is going to be you. So what does that look like? What does that feel like to achieve recovery and to respond to the reality that may or may not happen depending on how your husband recovers. So write a letter to yourself describing exactly what life looks like in recovery. Where are you headed as an individual? What do you want for your life moving forward? Number 4, write a commitment to yourself. Now, I have included one below this video that is suggested that you can just print out and sign, but it would be even better if you just take that as inspiration and create it for yourself, so that it's very unique, very specific to you. And the reason I am saying this is because once we make a commitment to ourselves and we write it down and we sign something, we are so much more likely to achieve it, right? I don't want you to go through this process being wishy-washy. I want you to stand in your power from day one, saying, I am not going to tolerate anything less then respect through this process, empathy through this process. I'm going to do my darndest to heal myself and to recover from this betrayal. I expect that you do the same with your addiction, and then maybe we can see what we can do together. But I'm not going to settle for anything less than respect and empathy, love, value, mutually working towards the same goals. Okay. So writing a commitment to yourself that you are committed to this process, even when and especially when it gets hard, because a lot of times that is where the real healing occurs, is when we have this goal up here that we have articulated and we are moving towards it, and it gets uncomfortable because it's new, it's different, it's challenging us, it's changing our habits, and we push through the healing journey to get to the other side. And that does take a period of time that will be uncomfortable, because anything new is uncomfortable. That's part of the brain changing process. But when you know that it is moving you towards your goal, it's a great thing. And the fifth step I want you to take immediately, and I will go into more detail in later modules of what to look for and how to find these. So if you want to skip there, feel free to do that. But you and your spouse immediately, like week 1, month 1, whatever day or week or whatever you are starting this course, if you've not done this already, reach out for support for yourself and your spouse. And what I mean by that is very specifically looking for practitioners, not counselors, not church counselors, not spiritual counseling, not marriage counseling, therapists and practitioners that are familiar and work with sex addiction and are familiar and respect the reality of betrayal trauma, and use some version of a trauma modality to help you heal. So these are things like brain spotting, EMDR, subconscious reprogramming, which is what I do, etc. If you don't have somebody that uses some sort of trauma modality like that, then it's essentially a version of talk therapy, which can keep you going around in circles. And I hear lots of frustration and stories around that. And when you are someone that is ready to jump in and do the healing work, then I highly recommend that you find somebody that is trained, that uses trauma modalities, and can help you continue moving forward. So the first 5 steps to take immediately when you have discovered that your husband is a sex addict: physical separation of some sort, again, protecting yourself, setting boundaries. 2, start a journal. Monitor your thoughts, monitor your experiences, monitor your feelings. Number 3, write a letter to yourself describing what recovery looks like, creating that vision for yourself of where you are going through this journey. Number 4, write a commitment to yourself that you are committed to do the work every step of the way. And number 5, reach out for support and start creating your team. I am so honored to be part of your team, and I look forward to this journey together.